The April 8th meeting for the Housing Advisory Committee will call to order. Joyce, would you like to do roll call?
Sure. Amagashi.
Here.
Gorman.
Here.
Jetzer.
Here.
McKee. Mertens.
Here.
Perry. Farmer Eden. Sanders.
Here.
Shimming. We have a quorum.
Perfect. We have approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for our last meeting? Second?
Second.
Wonderful. Public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't see that we have anybody. Do we? Oh, we need to vote on the approval of minutes? Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I'm just rushing things along. I'm anxious to get to the park and open space plan. So, all in favor of the approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Those unopposed, nay. Motion carries. I don't believe we have any public appearances for any non-agenda items. So we will move to the resolution for the ordinance regarding the 2024-2028 Park and Open Space and Recreation Plan. And I believe we should open it for discussion. And we have a guest.
I think we need a motion first.
To,
I'll move approval
approve.
of Resolution R2424.
do we approve it before we discuss it?
We just do the motion.
We need to move in second, yeah.
Okay.
And we vote on it after?
Okay.
After discussion.
Okay.
So I so move with regard to Resolution 2424 for the Parks and Open Space and Recreation Plan.
I'll second.
Okay, we have our Parks, Rec, and Forestry Director, Mr. Scott Endel, here to kind of walk us through the document and answer any questions. Take it away, Scooter.
Welcome, Scott.
Thank you. Certainly thanks for having me today. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the group. Before I get into the document, though, I certainly would like to thank Deanna and Brad from the planning department. They're really the authors or the helpers, if you would, of the Park and Rec Forestry Department to draw up this plan. And actually, this plan, it was an update from the 2015 to 2020 plan. And I don't know if you remember Wade Thompson, but Wade Thompson was in the planning department in 2015, and he was the one that really helped us put together the plan. And actually, at that point in time, we changed the format of the plan. And currently, the plan, there's an executive summary as the beginning of the plan. And in the middle, we have, which is really our inventory of all of our parks and the amenities that are included in those parks. And then at the end, it's actually the meat of the plan, if you would. That it's the action items that we're working on. And what I'm finding is actually I've been using the last month to go around to all the different committees, and I will report that the housing committee is the best for last. We're saving the best for the last because you're the last group that I'll be presenting before. But really what I'm finding too is that when I go out to all the different committees, each of the committees actually have a piece within the plan. There's action items that are included in the plan, and each of the different committees might have a specific action or goal included in the plan. And what I've really done is I've asked everyone to kind of take a close look at their portion of the plan, and if there's any additional wordage or cleanup of wordage or more clarifying language that could be included, that's really helpful. And what we do is we gather all the comments, and then I'll work with Deanna and Brad and determine, because they really are kind of the guidance for us They're in charge of all the planning documents, so what we really want to do is make sure that the planning documents are consistent in what they include, so they'll help us kind of go through all the different comments and determine what actually we should include in the plan. Another thing which I did is I did include some information on your desk there. It provided me an opportunity to kind of reflect. And actually the first bit of information is I do a host report every year, which is kind of a summary of our Park, Rec, and Forestry Department. And the back and front of that first sheet is 2015, when we did the plan originally, and then currently what we're at 2024. And I might just draw your attention to a couple different, the host report has a couple different sections. It has staffing, then budget, and then general park information on the bottom. And in regards to staffing, in 2015, the Park, Rec, and Forestry Department, which includes, park maintenance, the city forester, naturalist, and then the recreation department and the programs that they offer, we had 10.25 full-time equivalents staff in 2015, and we currently have 11.75. So we've gained about 1.5 full-time equivalents within the last 10 years. The budget information in the middle, in 2015, the budget was a little bit over $1 million, and currently for 2024, it's almost $2 million. So that definitely has increased over the span of the last 10 years. One thing that I did want to draw your attention to is the revenues. If you look a little bit to the right, those are the revenues that the department collects, which is basically recreational fees, park shelter rentals, community center rentals, athletic field rentals. In 2015, we collected a little bit over $200,000 in revenues. And then if you look to 2019, it was up to $259,000, almost $260,000. But then did you notice what happened in 2020? You know what happened in 2020? That's when COVID hit, and we were at about $70,000 in revenue. But then in comparison, if you go down to 2023, we're back up to almost 270, which is a little bit above what pre-COVID was. So we're back on track. I did note in here that we planted 401 trees in 2023 as a bit of reference. And then on the bottom, the park acreage, currently we have 788 acres. And in 2015, we had 507. So the system is definitely grown. Since 2015, we've added a Sunnyside Dog Park, an inclusive playground at McKee, a disc golf course which kind of works with our golf course at Nine Springs, 8 pickleball courts, and we currently have over 30 miles of trails. 8-foot trails that we do plow, and that was in comparison to 2015 when we had about 20 miles of trails. So I think that was really kind of an interesting exercise for me, and maybe a little bit more into the details in regards to amenities. Currently we have 15 small gazebos within the park system, which are those octagon type of facilities, 14 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, 12 large shelters, and I believe 8 of those are available for rent during the summer, 13 ball fields, 22 half basketball courts, 6 full basketball courts, and 40 playgrounds within the park system. So that might give you a little bit of reference to the size of the park system. So with that, I think what I wanted to do is I actually wanted to jump, as I mentioned before, the Park and Open Space Plan has an executive summary at the beginning. Then it has a list of all of our amenities in the middle. And then the last part of the plan is what I want to just kind of draw your attention to is the action items within the plan. And what I've done is I think I've put in your packet of information a piece of that I wanted to highlight, and I do want to read, if I may, the first page there, action item framework. Recreation in public spaces can take many different forms. Conventional forms include basketball, volleyball courts, baseball, softball diamonds, play equipment, natural activities such as walking or hiking. These conventional forms will always have a place on public spaces. This section of the plan looks beyond those conventional forms and looks at recreation on public spaces through the following framework. And this was kind of a creation of Wade when he put together the plan in 2015. If we look at the park system through the 3 S's, sociable, solitude, and seams. And this is really kind of a, what do I want to say, what the park system provides to our community. The first part is sociable. All of our parks provide opportunities and locations for people to gather and to do family things and those types of activities. It provides solitude to our residents. It might be a place where people can, walk on the trail and visit a park and kind of defrag from the day, that kind of thing. Along with seams, we really work hard to try and connect all of our parks through a network of trails, and certainly then they connect with the regional trails within our community. And so that's kind of the 3 S's. And when we have a new park that comes into the community, actually when there's a new development, another bit of information which I'm sure you're very interested in is I included the fee structure within, that's the brown sheet, where when a development comes in, for each dwelling unit, they need to donate 2,900 square feet. The idea is that when a new development comes in, they have to provide the park space, which is at 2,900 square feet, and then also an improvement fee so that we can build the park, the new park for the new residents. So that's kind of the method that we utilize to build new parks. The needle that we need to begin to start to thread is, okay, when that equipment, when it reaches its life expectancy, we need to try to begin to start to put dollars in there to replace that equipment. We have the dollars from the developer to build the park, and then it falls on to the taxpayers to maintain it. But then when the playground wears out, or we need to try and figure out a way to gather dollars in order to replace that piece of equipment that's reached its life expectancy. Then we have the vision, and we've got a list of goals there, and actually the goal number 6, I think kind of relates to your group, is manage Fitchburg parks, open space, and recreational lands and uses and facilities therein in an efficient and sustainable manner that optimizes benefit and minimizes cost. And that might be the idea. Well, I just wanted to draw attention to that one. Then if we go to the action items, action item 3, and this really pertains to your group here. Explore revision of the system classification and standards, parkland dedication, open space requirements for development projects, and process to identify future properties. So that's the action item that I think really pertains to your group. And again, what the Park and Open Space Plan does is that directs the action. That doesn't get into the details of what that action may end up being. That's going to be the exercise that we're going to have to go through in order to take a look at that specific action. And then the last one, 15, maintain adequate levels of city financial resources and explore opportunities for non-city financial resources to maintain and enhance the systems, sociable, solitude, and seams. And that kind of refers to what I mentioned. We get it built the first time, but now we need to try and figure out how we're going to pay for the maintenance of that or replacement of those facilities when they become worn out. So that actually is it in a nutshell. And like I say, what we'll be doing now is we're gathering a lot of comments. Brad and Dee from the planning department, they'll help us go through those comments and then inject them into the park and open space plan. And then there might be a couple groups that we'll go back to. And this actually might be a group that we may come back to just to kind of give you an update if you're interested. So with that, Bill, was that different than the other presentations I've made, or?
Well, yeah, I think you've kind of tailor it to the particular body you're speaking to.
Because Bill, how many times have you seen this?
I saw it at TTC, and I think you maybe were at the Committee of the Whole.
Committee of the Whole, yeah.
And now this, yeah.
So I appreciate your listening to it several times. Okay.
So should we go with questions?
Yeah,
Who would like to start?
I have a couple.
Okay, go ahead, Bill.
So I'm looking at the fee schedule, and I see the park improvement fees. So for a single family home, the required fees are $670, and then for a duplex it's about half that, and for multifamily it's about half that per dwelling unit. Can you explain the rationale? I mean, it just seems like, the wealthier you are, the more apt you are to be in a single-family home where you've already got a backyard that you can play in, and then you're getting 4 times as much parkland money than the people who are typically lower income in the multifamily units.
And that the metrics that was used in order to come up with those fees. It is basically, because we have 3 different classifications: neighborhood, area, and community. And within the plan, we've got a list of general amenities that go into each of those different types of parks. So what we did is because you have to justify those fees, so we need to go through an exercise. And basically, the simplest way is that we figure out what the amenities need to be in that type of space, neighborhood, area, or community. We figure out what the cost of that is, and then we cross-reference with a number of units for the different types of zone developments, and then they need to match. If that makes sense. You have to justify the fees that you're collecting, and basically through that matrix that we have as far as what amenities go into each different category, we determine how much it's going to cost to build the park, and then we relate the park improvement fees to that cost.
Okay, so it's all just based on the density of housing. If you have fewer units, each one needs to kick in more. I'm just wondering, I guess I'm not sure how that, does the developer typically pass that on to the?
Certainly. I would assume, I don't want to assume, but I would suspect that's part of the cost of the facility that they're building, right? And I think that's where the exercise is really going to be informative and very very good, because it's kind of a reboot. When we first started as a city, we needed land, right? So we wanted to have a lot of parkland and all of those kinds of things, but it might be a case now where we have adequate parkland, but we need more dollars to improve those parklands. And if there's some way that we can include in there, just like an endowment account or some kind of account that can be set aside for future maintenance within that fee structure potentially. And I think that's going to be the interesting exercise that we can certainly, the idea of, maybe less land and more money. I'm thinking that it may end up being the same commitment from the developer, but it might be, it might be carved up a little bit differently depending on where we're at right now and the dollars that we need.
So I guess I'm not entirely sure what's preventing us from setting aside some of those park improvement fees for, maintenance and replacement. Is that a city ordinance or is that a state law? Is
I
that
think
somewhere?
that's state. I think that's more state. That's more state.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Those are that's more of a regulation that we have to follow as a municipality. And maybe what we do is we throw ourselves at the mercy of the developer and say, hey, you know what? How about putting a little nest egg in an endowment fund for us in the future? I don't know.
Scott, have you ever explored, I'm just kind of putting my marketing hat on now, so sponsorships of parks in lieu of kind of advertising? And I mean, we have so many large corporations and companies here, and even the developers to say, hey, we'll kick in, $10,000 a year to maintain this park, and in exchange, can we advertise on the park benches or the, whatever?
Absolutely, and really what we're going towards is a friend of the Fitchburg Parks, because I, as a staff, can't go out and go to Promega or whoever it is and ask for dollars. But certainly, I think to your point, there are dollars within the community, and I know people would be receptive to that idea. So really, what we're looking at is creating a Friends of the Fitchburg Parks 501c3 that can go out and begin to start to do these kinds of things. The tough one is, I suspect, I don't know for sure, but to ask for maintenance dollars. I don't know how the Promegas and those would respond to,
Is it because it's a different bucket?
What's that?
It's a different bucket of money. So
in
it
comparison.
has to be designated to that specifically. It can't just be,
I'm
here's
just saying-
$10,000, do whatever you want with it. It has to be specifically for the...
Well, I'm thinking more of Kids Crossing. Kids Crossing needs to be redone. I think for the Friends of the Fitchburg Parks to go to Promega and say, hey, we need dollars in order to build this new, I think they'd be receptive to that. I don't know how receptive they would be to say, hey, Promega, we need to replace these playgrounds. Are you interested in, I don't know. I'm just speculating that might be a little bit harder sell.
So you would have to disclose that that's what those dollars would, because to me, if you just went to Promega and said, hey, would you mind giving us $10,000? We've got work to do on parks, and in exchange, we'll give you X.
Well, certainly, I would think
Yeah.
that
I
we'd
would
want
think they
to.
would be pretty receptive to that, as long as they get something in return.
Right.
They need to get their props.
And I'll put anyone's name anywhere. my opinion.
I see corporate dollars,
Oh,
I
agree. And
mean-
it's hard for me because I can't go out, so we need to form that. And is anyone interested in being on that?
No, but I'm
Fitchburg
going to
Parks?
make a comment, Scott, and to the rest of the group here. This touches a little bit on my heartstrings because I feel like we are constantly going to our business community who pays taxes. And they pay a lot of money in taxes. And so to constantly be reaching out to the same people asking for money, I think we really need to be cognizant of doing that. It bothers me. It's one of these areas where I call it taxation without representation because, who's their alderperson or, so I'm just gonna be a little bit defensive when it comes to that. I just feel like, just because when a community goes out and asks for dollars, sometimes they think they need to do it.
Do you think that, so as a corporate sort of sponsor of a park, that this would be considered an advertising expense, really? That it's not necessarily the city coming and saying, we need money. It's, hey, would you want to sponsor a park? And in exchange, you have opportunities for marketing and advertising in that park. That comes out of a different budget. Whether that would soften that kind of that ask or not, I don't know. But I understand what you're saying.
I guess I just don't.
It's all the
I don't
same.
know who would be the person to go and do that
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah.
I guess I look at it if there's, I feel like maybe we should look at different ways of doing it. Maybe higher user fees. Or, I asked Scott, how does it work when there's rentals, for the big events? And he said, well, sometimes the residents reserve the park because they get a less, it costs them less. I guess I'm just a little defensive because I do hear a lot from our business community, and sometimes it's people going back to the same business over and over and over, and I just feel like I need to be a little protective and make people understand they pay taxes, and they pay a lot of taxes. So we need to let them decide how they want to, you can put the opportunity out there, but I don't think it would be right to go ask them. We
Okay,
could
that's a good
advertise that
perspective.
we
Thank
do
you.
this, and if that's where they want to, because to be honest, knowing our business community, a lot of them do a lot of things for the community very quietly, and you never know. So that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's a good perspective.
I have to ask you a question, Scott. So how long ago was Kids Crossing built? Because I was on that committee, and I was just trying to think about how long ago we built it.
About 22 years ago.
So I'm laughing because I didn't think it was that long. But
Seems
I'm
like
not, I'm not that much older.
Seems like it seems like yesterday. Actually.
Yeah, it does.
Yes.
But that's interesting because that was a community build. That wasn't something that the city paid for. So we raised money from neighborhoods and people who utilize the park to build that facility. And we had corporate donors, but that was something that was community oriented, right? So it's interesting. You don't see that now as far as parks being built like that by the local community.
Right.
Which is kind of interesting. One of the questions that I had for you is I was looking through the plan and talking about the 12 active parkland acres for every 1,000 persons. And then also the requirement for the development set aside of 2,900 square feet for one dwelling unit. So is there a relationship between those two things?
There is. And like I say, I think that when this was originally put together, it might have been a need for the community for park space, but as we've grown, I think that need has changed. Just the idea of, developments, although the developments that we're currently working on, they're not, well, I don't know if they'd be infill developments, but when they come in, what I do is we kind of take a look at their specific development and how it fits in regionally with the other parks in the area. And what I'm saying that, for example, Hartung is developing, so we'll certainly need parkland proper, but there with all the dwelling units that they're building, they'd end up donating more land than they have than the 2,900 square feet. So what you can do then is you can provide fee in lieu of that parkland dedication.
Right.
So they'll be deficient in parkland, so they'll give us a fee.
Sure.
And then we can utilize those fees to build new amenities within our community parks.
When I was looking at those numbers, I was trying to see what the relationship would be, and just doing the math, trying to figure out what it is, you come up with about, I think, let me look at my numbers here, 524 square feet per person when you're looking at the 12 parkland acres per 1,000 people, which is a lot different for your 2,900 square feet for a dwelling unit. So you're kind of guesstimating at about 5 people per dwelling unit, which
Right.
isn't necessarily the case, right? So you've got much more to dedicate than necessarily you're trying to allocate.
Well,
You get
and
my-
I think you're identifying exactly that it, you know, it may have been created 20, 25 years ago, so now it's time to kind of relook at that and determine what the community needs now for the next 20 or 25 years. It's time for a reboot, if you would, of that, you know, of that requirement for the developer. And I will say that, you know, the developers are always very conscientious of what we're trying to do, and I don't really hear much from them about the fees and those kinds of things, although I'm working with their staff. You know, we're working with their engineers that are putting together the park plans and things like that. So everyone is real receptive of the idea of, you know, connecting the trails and making sure that we have the park space for their customers and all of those kinds of things.
Do you have competitive research kind of on our competing communities, Verona and
Oh, yeah.
Oregon and
Oh, yeah.
Middleton and everything? And,
Yep.
and how do we stack up for
Well, and-
allocation?
Correct. And I think certainly I think that information is important, but then again, we need to kind of, what is the city of Fitchburg? What are we doing? Where are we at? I think it's good for comparison purposes, but I think we really need to kind of evaluate where we're at and what we actually need in the future. But we do. I'm sure people have seen the different park improvement fees and the parklands dedication, square footage, and all of those, which is valuable. But I think we really got to kind of assess where we're at and what we need for the future.
Can I jump in with a developer's kind of question or comment?
Sure.
When I'm looking at it, my background was in affordable housing development, and of course, our projects didn't bring in a whole lot of extra cash. So when you develop up front, like when you're putting together the funds to develop a park, could you create for the future maintenance of that park a capital reserve fund? I don't know if anyone's ever suggested that to you, that when this is created, so it already starts with a little bit more money and you can invest it in something so that it continues to grow until it's time for that thing to actually need that.
And certainly what we've done with the pickleball courts and new pickleball courts that we are building, and then the new tennis courts that we're building, what the council has done is they've set aside, in addition to the outlay to build it,
Right.
$25,000 a year.
Right,
For 40 years.
right.
Yep.
For its maintenance.
Right. But the needle that we're trying to thread is that's taxes. That's operating budget taxes. So in order for us to do that, we need the tax levy because the park improvement fees and the fee in lieu of parkland dedication cannot be utilized by the rules that we have to maintain. It can only be utilized to build.
Is that state law that says we
That's state
can't?
law, yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. So that,
By state, you cannot tax people to maintain what they're using. You can
Well-
only build new?
well, I think you're, I say, this is the discussion that we need to have to try and come up with a way to do it.
Okay, I'll think about that. It's more than one way to skin a cat.
See, I got everyone's thinking. That's good.
Marshall, it's not surprising, I guess, the way the state tax levy itself works assumes that inflation does not exist.
Right,
You know?
right.
So this is kind of along the same lines. I don't know whether the levy limits and the parkland dedication fees, statutes went into effect at the same time, or if it's just coincidence that they both happen to be written that way.
Considering that when I have worked with state entities and federal entities for a public good, they're aware that public good is not going to be bringing basically enough money to support itself. So I am surprised that they do not allow the levy fees to go and continue to maintain the schools that are built, the parks that are built. Let's let them drop into ruin and then rebuild them?
That makes
That
sense.
seems
Yeah.
counterintuitive, and it certainly wasn't applied in affordable housing, I can tell you that. I mean, each entity had their own idea of how big that reserve fund should be. So, because they knew that, they're either going to have a problem and have wasted the money that they built, they spent building it by not maintaining it properly. So I don't know if we need to approach the state about that. Mike?
Mallory?
Yeah, I have a question. So
Okay.
not discussed in the plan was private recreational space that is site-specific. So we have a firm that develops tax credit housing, affordable housing, and on some of those sites, we provide playground equipment. And it may, depending upon the site location, a variety of factors. And that recreational space may be, in the middle of the various apartment dwellers. If new development provides this recreational space on a site, does the developer have the same set-aside requirements or fee requirements as if they didn't? I mean, do you ever run into that situation where the developer wants to provide and put an amenity such as a play structure facility within, especially those that are affordable where there are usually lots of children?
Well, what we've, I don't know if this is what you're alluding to, but with one of the developments, the developer actually went out and built the park. And then what they did then is they're going to receive credit for the dollars that they spent to build the park, with the idea that, they want to get it built there for their residents, where the city it might take them more time to do it.
Right.
Along with, they'll have contractors and they'll have people there.
Right.
So they'll build it, and then they'll receive a credit towards their park improvement fees and parkland dedication once we accept it, which we're actually doing with Crescent Crossing.
So was that, and that wasn't what I was referring to, but
Well-
is that park like within the confines of the apartment project itself?
Of the development. Mhm.
So I would think that would be more advantageous for the city because you're not responsible for maintaining it.
No,
You're not liable if somebody gets hurt on it, right? Because that's within the confines of the,
well, see, it's a public space. So this is part, in Crescent Crossing,
Okay.
they have to dedicate parkland, and they have to give us park improvement fees in order to build it. And then once it's built and accepted, then we as a city then maintain it.
okay, so I was talking about a different situation where that park is built, or a park might be a stretch, let's say play structure and a few other things, but within the confines of the development itself.
Right.
So that the developer takes on that responsibility, because I know that that has happened with some of the projects that we have built.
See, and I think that's an option that we should, maybe take a look at, right?
Well,
That,
I would think it would be to your benefit, right? Because you're not maintaining it, you're not liable for it, right? And it's not like another neighborhood park, which is, as you discussed in your plan, more expensive for you to maintain.
and then they would do that in lieu of their park improvement and
Right.
parkland dedication.
Right, and they have more control over it, right? But they
But
probably,
is it available then to outside residents?
no,
No,
wouldn't be.
See, it's got to be
Because then
available.
there's a liability issue, right? I mean, I'm sure you
Well, it
have
just-
people coming
no.
from other places, but yeah.
Just generally, it needs to be, if you're going to receive parkland dedication credit and park improvement, it needs
Has
to
to be
be
dedicated to the
available to
public.
the public, yeah.
So then there's no incentive then for a developer to put any kind of recreational space within the confines of a development.
Oh, I would think they'd want to, right? But
Right, but if they have to pay a fee or in lieu of dedicating the land. I don't think
I
we
would,
wanna-
I would agree, probably, yeah.
Okay,
No incentive for them to do that.
okay.
But, I mean, developers tend to do that. Any multifamily building is likely to have a workout room or a dog run as part of the facility, right? And those are typically limited to the residents of that building.
Yeah, I'm talking about a play structure in an affordable project, right?
Yeah.
That's outside, that, we've done a couple of those, which are outside or adjacent to or inside. But I don't know how that's worked with regard to park fees, if there's been a credit for that. Probably not, because it's not dedicated to the
It's
public
not
at
available to the
large.
public, right? Right. But maybe that's something that needs to be looked at.
And I think your plan also talked about where we are as far as inventory, and that currently, I think for like 2023, we're, ahead of the game somewhat, as far as,
Well, and that's something that's kind of alluded to in the plan too, national standards. But again, I think we need to be careful that, we should really kind of go to our standards and what the city of Fitchburg residents want as far as their park space and their park standards.
it's a question of balancing, right? How do we make this housing more affordable? What fees do we modify so that developers are more interested and, right, and,
And at the end of the day, how do we replace that playground that is wore out after 20 years? Mike, did you?
I had a question before you leave, but
Sure.
this doesn't have an affordable housing twist. This is a different twist. When the city has responsibility for something, let's say like a bike path, and the county's responsibility is, I'll give you an example, bike path that crosses County Highway MM. I don't know if you're familiar with it, heads south, goes toward Belleville, keeps going.
Right?
There is, I think, a question of who's responsible for the crossing area. So we had a situation where there's a light. MM is a very busy street. Average speed, I'd say, is between 60, 70
And
miles.
that's County Road M,
Yeah.
not MM.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
MM. I always get them confused. But it's a really, really busy county highway. I cross it all the time on my bike. And unfortunately, people don't slow down. And even with the light there and everything else, when it's pushed, I've counted cars and gotten up to 10 before somebody stops. And something happened where someone had stopped, but the person behind didn't, so they took out that crossing light that was there. It was gone for a period of weeks, I want to say even months. That caused a lot of problems. I can tell you, because I almost got hit trying to cross the street when a driver had stopped for me, even though I didn't push the light because it didn't exist. The guy behind didn't. And so he went around and almost hit me. And so that light had been gone for almost 2 months. And I contacted Fitchburg, and they said, that's not our responsibility. That's the county's responsibility. But the bike path is maintained by the city. So I would think there has to be some sort of sharing or taking from the county the responsibility of those lights. Because I can't imagine that that's the only situation within the city of Fitchburg where we have that problem. I know there's another crossing on Wayland Road and Seminole Highway. There's no light there. But I'm assuming the city is responsible for that sign that's right there, or is it the county?
If it's a county trail, the county is
So the trail itself is the county?
Well, it may be actually the DNR, because it's a state
Or
trail. That's
DNR.
the Badger State Trail. So I think the DNR maybe was responsible for the RFB at County Highway M.
Because I contacted the county, that's who I was told was responsible for it. So there's a question of who's responsible for what, how it gets maintained, because that could have been a really fairly serious situation, because it was left, basically unattended for quite a while.
Maybe just typically through the city, there's a lot of DNR and county trails that run through the city, and actually the way it works is the county or the DNR, they received an easement from the city for their trail that goes through. And I'm not, and what'll happen is park maintenance and the Dane County or the DNR will be communicating back and forth. There's a limb, maybe there's a limb over the trail, so they'll coordinate on those kinds of things, but the actual structure, that's whoever owns it, if you would. They're responsible for signage and maintenance. And what we do within the city, our 30 miles of trails, they'll connect up to those regional trails. But then we'll plow, we won't plow the regional trails. We'll just plow what's.
The city of Fitchburg was out there pruning, trimming, because I talked to the gentleman that was out there and asked him, are you responsible for this? And they said no.
Yeah.
But we do everything else.
So and again, I don't want to, because I don't know the spot, but it's kind of a partnership where we work together on those things. But certainly it's, when you begin to start to talk about signage and lights and those kinds of things.
I mean, I would be cautious as the city if the county isn't out there doing what they're supposed to do to make that a safe crossing. I mean, it's dangerous enough as it is without the appropriate, lights, signage, whatever that's out there. And the other thing that I didn't see in the plan itself was security measures as it relates to the parks. And the reason why I bring this up is because I travel on the bike paths quite a bit, is we had a sexual assault on the Oregon bike path last summer. And then we had, I think, a situation on the Capital City Trail where people thought it was funny to put wire across the path and, kind of sabotage those people who ride the bikes. Is there any sort of plan for cameras, emergency telephone boxes, lighting, or anything like that with regard to the trails? And not only biking, but hiking.
Not so much with the regional trails, but certainly with our park facilities, we put security cameras and those kinds of facilities in our shelters. But the state and DNR trails, we don't really have plans to do those kinds of things.
Okay. That's all I have. Mike?
Just two comments. To Jenny's earlier question on kind of the park dedication or fee in lieu of, if you go to our housing plan in 2019, there was a snapshot in time on page 30, 31, and 32 that looked at those fees in comparison to our peer communities, including the city of Madison, Middleton, Sun Prairie, Verona, and DeForest there. I think our hope is once we get the housing initiatives and program specialist position filled and that person on board, that maybe that would be one of the duties that we would task them with is kind of, that was 2019, so kind of look to kind of update that information so we can kind of see how we compare in those fees and metrics and everything there. And then the second thing is to the discussion about state statutes with what you can use the park fees for. We've recently been getting some surveys from like the Madison Area Builders Association and some other entities in the development kind of world. And in the response to some of their questions, when they've been asking about kind of regulatory reform or things like that, we've been mentioning that item specifically, that it would be helpful if collectively they kind of express that perspective to our legislators at the Capitol. There. So that's something that as we kind of get those surveys and requests for information that we've been including in our responses for that. And I think Scooter's doing that through the parks world too. Aren't you?
Yes.
Thanks so much, Scott.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks.
So next on the agenda is the report from the department. Is that Joyce or Mike or both?
I think we're both gonna kind of take a stab at this. The Efficiency Navigator program, that has been, it's in the pre-approval process and working on finalizing the actual contract language to make sure that it meshes with our finance policies, because we have certain thresholds in which we have to get approval from the council and certain thresholds that we don't. So I'm meeting, I believe, Wednesday with our finance director just to kind of work through the details of the referral process. And then, if you guys recall, Sustain Dane is our go-to person. They're going to do the administration of the contracts and work on that end. Then they'll work with Elevate Energy to identify the projects, hire the contractors, and do the work. So really our contract is with Sustain Dane, and Elevate will be a subcontractor. But it's how we pay for the projects once they happen is where we're kind of at with that. So hopefully Wednesday, everything else is ready to go. It's in the pre-approval queue. It's been approved. The contract has been approved by our city attorney. So we just have to do a referral, and then it'll go to CETA for final approval. I did do some checking back in December. We did vote to make a recommendation to have this moved forward to CETA, so we don't have to bring it back to you guys. So one less thing we have to worry about here. So just wanted to give you a quick update on that project. What else would you like me to talk about? Oh, I guess there's something. Today I got an email from WIDA with the new income requirements for this year. I will forward this information to you because I think you'll be surprised at Dane County's income levels are pretty high again. So it's going to make affordability even that much more challenging. So I've got that. Let's see what other, I think we have 13 applications for the housing specialist. Mike's kind of worked his way through some of them. I haven't had a chance to look at those, but we're pretty excited about some of the candidates we have, so that's a good thing. Do you want to report on anything else,
Sure,
Mike?
we're hoping to have the interviews scheduled within the next probably 2 weeks here, now that we've got the pool of candidates and once we review the applications. So we'll be coordinating with the HR department to get the folks in here that are that we select for interviews and everything. So we're excited about that. Last Friday, we had a meeting with we're continuing to work on the affordable within market rate program, where we're looking at 10% of the units being at 60% of Dane County median income. So we're working with our financial advisors, Ellers and Associates, that have put together some kind of general program parameters. We had a meeting with one developer that we were looking to do kind of a pilot program with. That's in venture capital, the guys that have been doing a lot of the buildings up on North Fish Hatchery Road. It seems like we're probably not there yet with them, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to make the timing-wise, if we're going to make it work for them to incorporate it within their building that's currently under construction on Index Road. That one now is branded and called Bella Springs, and they are going to be opening that building or taking occupancy in June. So we're getting a little late in the game for it. They're already at 17% pre-leased for the property for June. So getting good leasing activity and everything, even without having kind of a unit to show and just kind of marketing it online. So I think it continues to show the demand and need for market rate housing. Our rent-to-own program, the Townhome Workforce Endowment, we're meeting with administration on Monday, April 22nd. So that'll be with the city administrator, city attorney, and the finance director to go through some of the due diligence that Joyce and our consultants from H&A Advisors have been doing over the last 2 years. That also includes some legal analysis that was done by Quarles with the legal RFP that we put out there. And then coming up in the next week, we're going to be meeting with Commonwealth the executive director, Commonwealth of Madison, because they ran a rent-to-own single-family program for the city of Madison. So we're looking to just kind of learn what their experience was and how that program was managed and kind of the program parameters as we continue to do due diligence. Then our hope with those two programs plus the Efficiency Navigator, as you know, we had an election last week. So the new council has their organizational meeting next week, Tuesday on April 16th. So then we will know kind of which council members are on which committees, who our council president is going forward. And so I'm kind of waiting to find out who the council president will be because they establish the agendas for what we call our committee of the whole meetings, the monthly meetings that the council uses on the fourth Wednesday to kind of go into more in-depth and detail, no action items, but more kind of educational information meetings on certain topics. So they would like us to come to the committee of the whole meeting in the future to kind of give an update on a lot of the housing programs that we've been doing due diligence on over the last couple of years. So we're anxious to be able to do that and bring some of the programs forward. So we'll keep you posted on once we get that date kind of scheduled with whoever the council president will be going forward. And then just a couple of development updates for you. As I said, Bella Springs is planned to take occupancy in June. That's 173 units there up on Index Road. We've got Hartung Fields, if you've been over there recently. The first foundation is going in. That one's going to be 169 units. That's the first of 3 buildings that will be on that site. That's market rate there. And then there will also be 51 units that will kind of ring those 3 buildings and that townhome units there. And that'll be along the new road. We're relocating Blaney Road to the east. And then there'll be a new road that'll come in that's going to be called Botanical. That's there. So eventually there will be 51 townhome units. So it'll bring some good inventory of housing stock. In Uptown, just east of the railroad tracks, the 57-unit Arlo building is nearing completion. That will take occupancy in June. And then that one's also going to have 2,300 square feet of commercial space on the first floor, which is going to be a cocktail lounge. Hawk Schenkel, who has the Atomic Koi, the Jade Monkey downtown, and Hawks on State Street is going to be doing another cocktail lounge here in Fitchburg. The other unique thing about that site is, if you look, there's just a little shelter there that he can have some entertainment and bands. And then there's also an area for like a food cart to dock as well. Just east of the railroad tracks, north of East Sherrill, over there by the Quick Trip, on the north side of East Sherrill. That's market rate as well, yeah. And then the next building that Avante has started construction for would be on the south side of Lacey Road on the west before you get to the Limerick. And that is the Talent Apartments. And that'll finish out kind of that row of apartment buildings as you're going from north to south at East Sherrill and Lacey Road. And that one is going to be called the Talent Apartments. So that'll kind of finish out that stretch there. And then Phil Sveum is proceeding with the 4th addition to the Terravessa neighborhood in Uptown. So if you haven't been over to that neighborhood recently, you should take a drive through there. Just a lot of really good housing starts and housing activity. And then the one senior housing development that's planned there for those middle lots, we've got a meeting with them tomorrow. That's Marquardt Development is the senior housing group is going to be doing that one. It's called Cesta. So we've got a meeting with them tomorrow with our development team just to get an update on that project. That would have everything from assisted living or independent to assisted to some memory care, and then it'll include kind of a cafeteria and food service that would also be open to the larger neighborhood of Terravessa as well and open to the public. So that one, what we're hearing is last I heard, they probably won't break ground until spring of 25. So unless we get a more recent update from them tomorrow, that's kind of the timetable that they've kind of indicated for us. Then up on North Fish Hatchery Road, the Venture Capital guys that have been helping us kind of redevelop that corridor, they're planning to come forward later this summer and early fall. Now I'm shifting gears to the Bowman Plaza site where the Stop and Go and BP C-store used to be. They will be acquiring that property from the Bowman family, demolishing that site, and then they'll be transforming it into about a 6-story building that'll have 270 market rate apartments, and then they'll also be bringing back 9,000 square feet of commercial space. The building will front Fish Hatchery Road. In order to park that number of units, they're going to need to have 2 floors of kind of structured underground parking incorporated within the building. And then they've worked out a lot of the more technical site issues, both with the church on the north side for some shared parking and then some parking for the commercial space, and then also with some easements on the south side that are shared with the Kelly Williamson mobile store. But that's really going to be a transformative project on the west side of Fish Hatchery Road. We've seen a lot of the activity on the east, but now that'll kind of start to set the kind of the future development parameters for that west side of Fish Hatchery Road. And I think, as we've mentioned at previous Housing Advisory Committee meetings, the north end of Fish Hatchery Road from Greenway Cross down to McKee Road is going to be part of the bus rapid transit north-south leg. And I think the platforms are scheduled to go in 2025 is what we're looking at. So there will be 4 platforms that'll run down the middle of the road from Greenway Cross down to McKee Road. So we want to build density and development activity along that corridor, knowing that bus rapid transit is coming. And then we're continuing to work. Now I'm shifting to the west side of Fitchburg.
Can I ask a question before you go farther?
Sure. Yep.
So who's doing the Bowman Plaza project?
That's the guys from Adventure Capital. They did the Terrace Point Apartments, the former dairy juice plant site. They did Oshala Springs east of UW Credit Union. They've got the Bella Springs under construction on Index Road. And then Ned Hoyt, one of the partners of that firm, is also involved with the multifamily at Hartung Fields.
And that's 270 all market rate?
Right now, it would be all market rate. Yeah. I think if we come up with the development parameters for affordable with the market, I think there's a conversation to be had with them. There will be a TID request for redevelopment of the site. If there was anything with affordable with the market rate, that would be beyond kind of our typical up to 10% developer bond TIF participation for kind of redevelopment of a site for it. So we'll keep you posted on that as we make progress with it. Yep.
What sort of timing are we thinking for completion of the Bowman Plaza site? I'm just thinking, BRT, the latest I heard is that it'll open in 2028 rather than 2027, which makes me sad. But I'm just wondering, it's the Bowman Plaza is right along the BRT route. Do we really need that much parking? And I'm wondering if we can say, hey, what if instead of one of those layers of parking, you put in some affordable units, Because, the parking's not going to make them any money. The affordable units will make them some.
The parking will make them money. They charge for parking there. And one thing I will say is I think we have to be a little cautious about these guys are very astute developers, and they don't want to spend money on things that they don't think is going to be in market demand by their residents and customers or needed for the project there, because it's costly to put in, structured parking space there. So I think we have to kind of let them program their site, and they know that bus rapid transit is coming there, but they also have a very, very tight site there. And the one thing we don't want to do also is shortchange the parking that's needed for the retail commercial area there, because that retail commercial isn't going to be able to survive just on people running through the bus rapid transit, especially when we have 46,000 cars a day flowing through the Greenway Cross Fish Hatchery Road intersection there. So I just think, they've already programmed the site, and like I said, they're not going to put in more parking, and their ratio is already less, I think, up there than what they have at some of their other buildings as far as the structured parking there. So I think they're already going to be a little bit more on the lighter side compared to their buildings elsewhere in the city. So let them come through with that project and let them kind of share the program details and everything. But I just would caution us on getting too involved with programming people's development projects and buildings because these guys are very successful and they know what they're doing. And I have to say we're very fortunate in this economic climate that they continue to get projects done, financed, and underwritten, whereas I know around the metro area, some projects are on hold because developers are not able to secure the financing and underwriting, for their projects. So I'm just thankful that we have two really good partners. They live here in Fitchburg, and they have bought into our Fish Hatchery Road visioning up there and are really helping us transform what developed as the town of Fitchburg into the city of Fitchburg, of today.
Yeah, I guess my hope was that they would be glad to not do so much parking, But I guess if their analysis says they need it in order to fill the units, well.
Yeah, they crunch the numbers, and the one thing that they do that we haven't seen in other buildings is they actually do the tandem parking there where it's not just the side-by-side stalls. They do the ones where there's the front and the back. So it's kind of like if you have a two-bedroom unit, maybe your two parking stalls, are back to back. I don't know how the residents work that out as far as, who's coming and going. Maybe it, works for the folks that one is, working remote at home, and maybe the other one is venturing out to a job, but that seems to work for them. They're kind of the only developer, I think, that we've, here in Fitchburg, that's kind of done that product and everything. But it is a source of revenue for them, and I think their buildings here in Fitchburg are all leased up as far as the underground parking stalls, that they have.
When you say it's a source of revenue, have they unbundled parking from the rent?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They have?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a monthly fee for the parking stalls. Usually, it's a little cheaper, I think, if you take like the tandem stalls there and everything. But there is a monthly fee. I don't know exactly what it is, but when they come forward, that could always be a question, at the Plan Commission or some of the other committees that their project would.
And does anybody else do that, or is that something that these guys
charge for parking?
Pioneered the unbundling of the parking from the rent.
Typical.
It's pretty standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's rare in this day and age to find parking that's included with the rent, underground or structured parking.
Okay, the only experience I really have is with one of my sons who has been in two apartments, and they were both, with the rent, you get one parking space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to comment too, they actually have electric charging stations in their basements too, so they're thinking of everything.
Mm-hmm. And they also incorporate a lot of bike parking within the underground structured area too.
Well, we also require that.
Yeah. Oh.
Mike Z, did Marquardt change their name?
It's Illumina, right?
Illumini or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Just so in case. And then, can I ask you guys a question? Because I'm getting older and kind of a little senile in my old age. But did I send you an invite to the courtyard? Because I think I should include you guys for, it's assisted living and memory care over by McKee Farms. I don't remember seeing it. I'll forward that to you guys because I think you should, if you're free, you should be able to come and take a look at some of these units and get a real feel for what's going on in the market.
I have it, but
Maybe I sent it to CETA.
CETA.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to send that out to you guys.
That's on April 25th.
April 25th?
Yeah.
Okay.
3
So
o'clock.
watch for an invite from me for that.
Mike, the only single-family home site that I'm hearing is Terravesa? Are
No.
they all apartments besides?
No, Highfield Reserve, here south of Fahey Fields,
Okay.
is doing a lot of single family. I think they're kind of on track to do about 30 annually. And to piggyback on that, that's why, one of the other things I wanted to mention is we have the two neighborhood plans that are going forward simultaneously here. And that's the South Stoner Prairie Neighborhood Plan at Fitchburg Road and Lacey Road on the south side in the Verona School District. And then we're working on the Greenfield Neighborhood Plan over here along Sain Road. And Joyce, did we send the bubble diagrams? We're working with a planning firm, MSA, and they just shared with both committees a couple different versions of kind of land use bubble diagrams of what the different areas would be in the land areas that constitute those neighborhood.
I saw them. I don't know
FUDAs.
if it was CETA or if it was this group. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
They're also available on the city's website if you look for the neighborhood plans.
I'll send them out to you, just the 3 options, so you guys can see what's kind of coming forward, what's proposed. Because we're running low on lots again, and we don't want to have to play catch up like we're doing right now. So,
And then still staying on, just on the west side of Fitchburg, we're working, this is the quarry site across from Super Target there, and it's the one west of Fitchburg Road where it veers to the north. We call that the outfield in the Anton plan versus the infield where the Wingra plant and operation is. But we continue to work with a development firm out of Grand Rapids, Michigan by the name of Colburn Hundley, and they're working on a comprehensive development plan for that approximately 35 acres. That's part of the outfield. So we're just starting to see some preliminary kind of concepts on paper. Along the front of McKee Road, there's probably 4 uses that would be there, a couple of quick service restaurants, financial institution, and another use. He's looking at maybe 1 large box in the middle of the property, or maybe a combination of some junior boxes that would be out there.
So basically a flip-flop of the targets. It's going to flip-flop and
Yeah, similar to
on the
that.
other side, so they'll be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then on the northern third of that property on the west side, before the road bends to the east there, where that future land use right now is for medium density. So there's some talk about doing some townhome rental units on that property. And then as you veer to the east there, between the road and where the existing multifamily is to the north, we're probably talking about some market rate high density units that would be over there as well. So hopefully by summer we'll start to see maybe some of his comments or concepts come forward more publicly through the planning process. The first step is to do this comprehensive development plan and bring them forward, and then he would work through the rezoning process after that. But he's getting some good interest and everything there, and hopefully that would drive some, that again is a remnant of our township days where we've got a quarry still remaining, and it's just reclaiming that for a more productive use both for the community and for the tax base here. So, and then we are working on TID number 18. This one isn't necessarily housing related, but just for your information. This will be north of Lacey Road and west of Commerce Park Drive, and then south of Cottonwood in the existing Fitchburg Commerce Park. And here again, we're going to be working with Payne and Dolan to reclaim some of the quarry land that is right there, especially north of Lacey Road and east of Quarry Vista. So that'll get us probably about 65 acres of some good general industrial land. And not only do we need to get more land for housing inventory across all spectrum of housing product type, but we're really in short supply of what we call the industrial general, clean manufacturing, light industrial land here in Fitchburg. And a lot of the requests that we've been getting from our regional partner, Mad Rep, and then our partner at the state, WEDC, have been for 10 plus, and a lot of times 25 plus acres. And we really don't have anything to submit at this point in time. So we've got the initial organizational joint review board meeting next week, Tuesday, April 16th. And then we're looking to have final consideration sometime probably about the middle of June for it. And one of the first projects that'll hopefully come forward, if we're successful in getting the TIF approved, will be a project by Sub-Zero north of their barn facility that they have, which is going to be a corporate conference center that they're going to be bringing to that site. So we're really excited about that. And then our friends at General Beverage have a 7-acre site just south of Cottonwood Drive, that once they finish their headquarters expansion, depending on the economy and depending on what's happening in the spirits world, there they will look to do a future warehouse and distribution facility on a 7-acre lot. So we're not only trying to bring inventory of land for new business prospects to locate here in Fitchburg, but trying to stay out front of the needs of our existing businesses and their expansion needs as well. And then lastly, on Wednesday, April 24th, in the council chambers here, we're partnering with Mad Rep and with the Dane County Executive's Office, Joe Parisi. We're hosting a kind of a information session on all of the federal funding that's flowing with regards to sustainability and economic development. So County Exec Joe Parisi is going to be here with Kathy from the Office of Sustainability and Energy from Dane County, and they're going to give a really good overview of funding that's going to be available and how local communities and also private companies, what opportunities are available for them. So if you'd like to attend that, it's open to the public, and we would encourage everybody that's interested to sign up for that. And Joyce has the invitation that she can email out to you. I think that covers
That's
everything.
it? Perfect. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting for today?
Well, hold on. There's a section for announcements, and going back to what Mike said about the organizational meeting for the council and everything, this very well could be my last meeting with you guys. You'll probably be getting a different Alder rep. Alder Gerhardt has recently taken a position with Habitat for Humanity, and she's expressed a strong interest in being on the Housing Advisory Committee. So heads up.
Well, you tried to steal my thunder, Bill, but Mike recently met with Mayor Julia Radafrada and the director of Habitat, so we are going to be working on possibly a presentation for our June meeting. It's on my list of things to do, so keep that in mind. And then I don't think we have any other announcements other than June 10th. Mallory will not be able to attend, so if anybody else is unable to attend, please let me know so we have a quorum. And I think that's it.
That's it? Wonderful. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Hang on. Did we ever actually vote on the park and open space resolution?
Oh.
We discussed it, but I don't
We
think
discussed it, we didn't vote on it. We just discussed quite a bit. So can I have? Motion. So I need to approve it, correct? All those in favor to approve the resolution R2424 with regard to the 2024-28 Parks and Open Space and Recreation Plan, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Could I just ask that we include that that you direct staff to include your comments, because you have a written form here, and I believe Brian McKee is going to be sending some comments too, so I just want to make sure that's part of the motion.
Okay, that we include the written comments that were submitted by the council persons.
By
By-
HAC committee members.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah, I guess just as a side note, when the Parks and Open Space and Recreation Plan has gone before, I think, 10 committees and commissions, and they've all submitted various comments to the Parks Department, and those have yet to appear in any sort of an aggregated, coherent form, which I think led the Plan Commission to table their vote on this until such time as revisions can make their way in front of them. So make of that what you will.
So do we not
Do we not vote on it until we see it in final form, or do we approve it as we have seen it?
That's up to us, I guess, yeah.
So I guess you could clarify that we approve it as it relates, because there are some comments that are in the information that was submitted, I think from one committee, but it still has to go before finance, does it not? Right, so there are other committees that will then look at, well, finance will look at it and comment on it as well.
If we don't, does it have to come back to us again?
It would, yeah.
Okay. And do we want that?
Or do we approve it as we have seen it?
And maybe with the request that the revised plan or updated plan that comes through for final consideration, maybe come back to the Housing Advisory, which I think Scott had referenced was an option.
And then do we vote on it again, or do we not need to if we approve it as we have seen it?
No, I think then you would have to vote on
On it
that
again.
version.
Okay.
Because there may be other changes from,
Oh, from the
based
other
on the
committees.
comments that they have from other committees.
Right, because I don't think all committees have submitted their comments as of
Right.
yet.
No, because I haven't submitted CETA's comments yet.
Okay.
Because I knew I was having this meeting, and it's going to come as one economic development response
Okay,
from both committees. And then as staff, we have comments to include too, so it's
Sure.
going to be a collective response.
okay. And so then we vote on it as it exists today, and we will vote on it again, then I take it? So it's a two-step process?
Either that or you could just
We could
not take
table
a
it for
vote.
today?
Table it and
Yeah.
just say
Yeah,
we'd
why
like
don't
to
we
have
table
the
it?
final
Does it make
version.
any sense to approve
Yeah.
something that's
Yeah,
not
come
final?
back.
Right.
Okay. So then we're not going to vote on it. So then I do move to adjourn the meeting. How's that?
Although you might just want to clarify, under the housing, the park and open space plan, that staff will submit the comments from committee members as well as the staff comments, and that the committee would like to wait to vote on the final version of the plan as that comes forward.
What you said, Mike, how's that?
Right.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Okay.
So do you want to vote on it, that you're not going to approve it, or no action taken? Because I have to let them know what was done here.
Yeah, I guess what do Robert's rules say we need to do? Do we need to
The Plan
formally
Commission-
table it, or?
The Plan Commission postponed it indefinitely, I believe.
Yeah.
The referral sheet should be in your, I gave,
Yeah.
is that what they said?
So it's postponed indefinitely for the Plan Commission, and Transport and Transit approved with recommendations, Commission on Aging Well approved with recommendations, the Resource Conservation Commission, no comment, Parks Commission, no comment, I don't know. And there's still the Finance Committee to review it on
Yeah.
April 23rd. So,
But I don't think it's going back to finance on the 23rd, is it? Mike?
it is.
It's going to
Says it is.
finance on the 23rd.
that's what it, this,
I thought Scott said it wasn't going to, but
okay. What if we approve with recommendations, or we can approve, can we do a qualified approval?
But do we want to see what all the other
A qualified
committees have?
approval given the final, or,
well, you could approve it with recommendations, but then also request that it comes back to this committee when the final plan is complete.
or do we just table it until complete final plan?
Postpone
I would
indefinitely?
say postpone, but not
Not
indefinitely.
indefinitely, no.
Just postponed until
Upon
final
completion,
comments are received.
or-
Right.
So then do you want to withdraw your,
I guess I'm withdrawing my motion.
Motion? Okay.
How's that?
so I'm just going to say no action was taken, and that you want your comments submitted, and then you'd like to see the plan back. That's what I'm hearing?
That's what you're hearing.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go. Now,
Are we ready?
I'm moving I move to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a motion? I make a motion.
I second it.
Perfect. Thank you.